Welcome to the podcast for Indie Film NYC, where we are helping filmmakers merge the art and business of independent filmmaking. I am your host, John Fallon. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the Indie Film NYC Podcast. So today we're going to talk with Alex Montaldo and Jeff Musillo about their feature film, In the Ring. The reason I wanted to start with this interview is that I know a lot of you are trying to figure out how to get your film into production and how to find your audience. Alex is very passionate about his work with Parkinson's patients, and through his program Stop PD, he has direct contact with sufferers of Parkinson's on a daily basis. But he also knows that because this disease affects family and loved ones around the person with Parkinson's, that there would be a sizable audience who would be interested in the storyline of this film. So, without further ado, I'll dive into my interview with Alex and Jeff and let them tell you about it in their own words.
Hi, my name is Alex Montaldo. I'm a film and theater actor based in New York and Los Angeles.
And I am Jeff Musillo, and I'm a writer and painter and occasional filmmaker.
All right, so we're here today to talk about In the Ring, a script that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the impetus of this script? I hear you were involved with that.
It's based, well, first of all, I'll be starring in it.
Okay.
I'll play the lead role.
Mm-hmm. Johnny.
Johnny Martinez. And the whole thing started when I had an idea. Because, it's based on something I've been doing for a while right now in New York and Los Angeles. And it's a boxing program for people with Parkinson's disease, specifically designed for people with Parkinson's. We do it here at Gleason's Gym, which is the most famous and wonderful boxing gym in the world.
Yeah, you can't get a better environment.
No way. Absolutely. It's got a vibe that you can't beat. And we do it in LA at a gym called Box and Burn in Santa Monica and Brentwood.
And so you do the Parkinson's
boxing
program here?
Here, yeah. Okay. And that's actually what inspired me to create this film, this story. And I spoke with Jeff because I'm an actor. I'm not a writer. So I had an idea and I needed a good writer to turn it into a script. And that's when Jeff came into play.
Yeah, because from what I remember, Alex had read a book of mine, a novel called The Ease of Access.
Okay.
And
which is awesome. I love it. Oh my God.
And from that, that kind of stemmed the conversation of, well, I have this idea, I have this story I need written, and then we just kind of went week by week meetings over this story, this whole idea he had kind of laid out in his head. Mm-hmm. So we just did a whole outline with it. And I would work on whatever section of that outline is throughout the week, and then we'd meet another week, and it just kind of blew up from there, and the story just developed and kept going.
So the idea was his in concept, and then you actualized it.
Right, and then we would basically sit down and kind of essentially just write the script. Yeah, we would just write the script, just talking back and forth, and I would just write the notes. I would take those ideas and kind of shape them, the scenes, and figure out where we were going to go next. But also, that's when I would start injecting the dialogue and kind of building up in the characters too. Because we would, not only did we go scene by scene, but we went character by character, kind of making them as real as they can be. There's a lot of positive with this because sometimes you don't even realize you're hitting a wall. When you have somebody that can kind of say, well, what if we just kind of pursue this avenue? Or what about this character? Or what if they said this? It just can open up a whole different world for you,
And then for you, how do you feel like, what did he bring to your idea that you thought was really making the shape of this film something that you needed to tell?
Well, the skill and the talent of a writer, which is something you cannot really fake or... If you're not a writer, you're not a writer. Mm-hmm. And you have to recognize and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, in my opinion. They have an idea and they go like, okay, well, you know what? I'm an actor. I've read scripts. Mm-hmm. I've got a great idea, maybe. And I'll write a script and it's going to be great. But guess what? No, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. You may have a wonderful idea, but you need someone who knows how to put it into the right format, for lack of better words, the right language. It's a different language, and that's another funny thing that a lot of writers actually do, the bad ones. When someone says something like, I don't know, well, but I don't think that character really works. I don't think that situation really works. And they go like, well, but that's exactly what it was in reality when I saw it, blah, blah, blah. But the idea of that is that you are making a movie. So I know it doesn't sound right, but to make it real, you have to make it fake. You know what I mean?
Like
real doesn't work. It's not a documentary, it's a movie. So you have to use that language. And if you don't know that language, it's not going to work. Which is why my first thought when I had this idea was, okay, I need someone who knows how to make it work for real. And that was Jeff.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, because from what I understand, there's a lot of the real situations in this film. So what part of this is documentary, or what is it totally a fictional movie? Like, how do you view this movie as far as the storyline?
I think how should I put this? It's entirely autobiographical in a way. So there isn't any
I think it's one of those things where you ride a line. You ride this line where you figure out where to inject a heightened element that could be fictitious with a reality. You know what I mean? Right. And the characters kind of guide themselves after a certain amount of time.
The core of the characters is real.
Yeah.
The main character, which I'll be playing, is based on my life in many ways. On my personality.
Right, your voice.
And it has a lot of elements of those people that I met who do have Parkinson's, because my character has it in the movie. I don't, in reality. But what happens to him is what happened to those people I know, and I observed, and I've spoken with. So I think it's safe to say that there isn't a single element of that character that's not real.
Right.
Doesn't mean that what he says is actually what someone said.
Sure.
Right.
So if somebody finds out, their son has Parkinson's, they just found out, what are you saying to these people? What can they learn from this story?
The main thing is that there is hope. We don't have a cure so far, but you can live a good life. That's the thing. And actually, I would say the target is, people who have it, their families, but people who will be diagnosed in the future. Because one of the biggest problems right now is that when you get diagnosed, you have no idea what you're dealing with. You hear that word, and you go like, what? Parkinson's? What's that? And you spend the first couple months of your life after that just trying to figure out what's going to happen to you. And you go out and you do your own research, and many times, if it's not filtered or guided, you only get the worst. And that's not good, especially when you're starting to cope with it. So one of the biggest problems when it comes to Parkinson's is that when people get diagnosed, they have no idea what they're gonna have to deal with. They don't know what Parkinson's is. Well, now you have Michael J. Fox, and everyone knows him, and everyone sees him in public speaking about Parkinson's and all of that. But the problem with it is that all you see is the symptoms. All you see is this guy who used to be a movie star and actor and now has a hard time talking.
Sure.
And he shakes and all of that, and you go like, that happened to him. My God, what's going to happen to me? But the reality of it is that it doesn't have to be like that. And it's not going to be all bad. You can have a great quality of life if you're on top of it. Mm-hmm. And that's the message we want to give.
So how many people are we talking about, like, as far as, like, you know, who's affected now? I mean, how many people get diagnosed?
Oh, I think almost 1 million people in America have Parkinson's.
Okay.
And it's a lot of people, because not only are we dealing with the person who has it, mm-hmm. we have to take into account their family.
Right.
Because Parkinson's is one of those diseases that affects you as much as it affects your spouse, your children, whatever. It takes
everyone's involved.
Yeah. It changes your dynamics within the family. It changes your entire life.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to know what they can do to make it better and cope with it.
So did this, what amount of research did you have to go into this?
So Alex had introduced me to a couple people, and I got to just sit down and talk with them. And there was all I wanted to see was just a normal conversation, just hang out with them. I didn't want to dig too much. I didn't want to pry too much. I just wanted to kind of walk around with a guy in particular, Ken, a great guy. Mm-hmm. I sat down with a guy named Ken, and we just had like lunch for a couple hours, and he discussed his day, what he was working at NBC, and we just had a normal conversation. And I would just kind of hear what he had to say in relation to his work with Parkinson's, and just how he kind of viewed his whole world and how it related to that, you know. And that kind of just influenced how I would write certain characters.
So did that influence the voice of the characters?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How so? How did you incorporate something like that into the writing?
It's almost like a subconscious thing. You know what I mean? Where it's not just the voice, but sometimes the actual actions of the character. I remember there was one instance where I was talking to somebody with Parkinson's, and the more you talk, the longer conversation, there was slight, obviously the slight twitching increases and stuff like that. So that would influence characters. But then you mix that with how they move on and proceed with their day, and that kind of creates a more human and full character. So it's every little kind of thing coming into one person,
And that must be a pretty big challenge to incorporate that without making it seem like a caricature of it. Right?
Yeah, but that's the challenge, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's for an actor, I think, at least for an actor like me, it's all I can ask for. To play someone who's fighting something that's so much bigger than himself, meaning losing control over your body. That in itself, and you will see it in the teaser that we shot, that in itself is a whole movie. I think you don't even need words for that.
Sure.
Right, because you have the different levels to it, because you have this, I can't speak fully about it, but you almost have this why me level, you know what I mean, that you have to cope with, and then this, I can come up over the top of this thing, and it's a constant battle, but the more you work it, the better you get, and the stronger you get.
The other role in this is the trainer character, Taylor.
She's the motivator. She's like the ass kicker. That has to be in that person's life.
And why is that important to somebody with Parkinson's?
Just that motivation.
Well, it's important because many times, first of all, depression is part of it. Okay. And when I say depression, I don't mean, I'm sad because I got Parkinson's. No, it's one of the symptoms, meaning, the pathways that are responsible for producing and the serotonin, which is involved in depression, are in part the same ones that are involved in the dopamine production, and so sometimes they both get affected, and you have to treat it as a symptom, not just as a mood or something that you can just get over like that.
Right.
No. You have to, and there is a stigma that goes with it. So to take that step, to make that transition from being a victim to your own eye and being someone who's fighting back, many times you need, well, not only one person, a team of people around you. And that's the whole point of that. Because you may feel powerless. I would.
Yeah.
And if you find 1, 2, 3 people, one will do at first, that are willing to stick around and guide you through it. And just say, you know what? It's hard, but we can do it together. It makes a huge difference. And that's what Taylor is. She's a stranger, but...
Yeah, there's also the relatability between the two. Because at the same time, she's going through her own shit. So it's important to see how, not only how she can motivate others, but how she can also stay motivated for herself and keep herself moving. So it's one of those things where sometimes people feel like they're on an island when they're dealing with something that's almost too big for them. And they can't articulate it correctly, they don't know how to deal with it. And almost like a support group, when you find somebody else that's struggling, even if it's not the same struggle, but there is a struggle, you can have a common bond there and kind of come together and figure out how to, advance in life in general, which is nice. And that's the role she plays. She plays that role. She plays just also kind of, I consider her the spine of the film. You know what I mean? She's the thing that kind of holds it all together, and the backbone, just the strength of the whole project.
And another very important part is the best friend. And there is a reason why the best friend happens to be a smaller person. Because in this movie, we show how to be a hero. You don't really need to be Captain America or whatever like that. You can be a hero in your own right without looking like one, without being cocky about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just go through life.
Yeah.
It's perspective. And that's what I gained by doing this. This program with Parkinson's people.
So then once you guys had the script together, you guys at what point did you start thinking, okay, now we've got a really good story here. Obviously, you've been dealing with the people with Parkinson's for a while, so you knew this message needed to be told. But so what was that next step? How did you start looking for partners to actually take this from, an idea, now more than an idea, it's now a script, a blueprint for a film, and then now, how did you get people to stand behind you?
Well, the first thing that happened was that one of our boxers in the program is Aaron Latham, the movie writer. He wrote Urban Cowboy and Perfect and a number of other movies, plays, and the program, and books. He has Parkinson's. And once we had the script, it was finished. Well, first draft, I would say.
Yeah.
I just asked him if he would read it and give me feedback. Because that's another good thing to do, I believe, when you're relatively young.
Yeah.
And not,
it's always good to have an outside pair of eyes.
Someone who's an expert. And just ask nicely, could you read it and tell me what you think?
Now, this is somebody you already had a relationship with because you were training him in the Parkinson's boxing program.
It joined...
Yeah, I don't know when...
Right at that time.
That's when he joined?
We were,
See, I didn't know. That's funny. Because we had spoke, because we were going back and forth with certain elements of the script, and Alex had said, if we could have a finalized script, maybe it'd be easier to get it to people, as opposed like we had the ideas, we had the outline, we had all this. And I had been working on it for a while, and I was just like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I got the call from him. If we have this solid script, I said, I actually just finished it the other day, the first draft. So here you go. And that's kind of he gave it to Aaron, and I remember being on a bus trip to Philly, and I got like a text from him.
Yeah, I just
like,
asked him, well, would you read it and let me know what you think? And he just read it, and he liked it a lot. So I thought to myself, you know, maybe. Well, the script is written. So you're a writer, that's taken care of, you know. But how about you direct it? Could be your first movie as a director.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's not 25 anymore.
Right. But after being in the industry for so long.
And he said yes. So we started working together.
Yeah, and that's when I kind of was, Alex introduced me to him, and then we talked briefly face to face, and then we kind of did the once a week thing over the phone and through emails, where it was like, okay, kind of chop the script into segments. Let's work on this. We kind of got it where he wanted it to go, and then we would come back to the next section, and we just rewrote draft after draft until he was in a happy place with it.
And it's still a work in progress, of course.
But most people say that the script's not done until the
film is
the editing.
Over.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
It's true. Editing.
Yeah.
All right. So you approached Aaron because you knew that he had experience as a screenwriter.
I mean, he wrote Urban Cowboy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
He had real world experience as a screenwriter.
Which is on Netflix. I was cruising past it last night. Wonderful. I was like, oh shit, Aaron.
Loved it.
But it wasn't just about your needs, right?
Yeah, not at all.
Tell me about that. So why did you identify?
Well, I thought to myself, in that situation, when you're not that young anymore, it'd be great to have a chance, and that's one thing that I see over and over again with our people. Sometimes they had something they loved so much, and because of Parkinson's, I'm not saying this is the case, but it applies to that. They had to stop, or thought they had to stop doing that. I may have a guy who used to play guitar as a hobby and stopped because of the shaking, and it was too frustrating and he couldn't take it anymore. Now, you can use boxing, you can use exercise, you can use any form of support to get that guy back on track so that he can do those things and have a better life. So I thought to myself, many writers like the idea of being directors. I think so. Right. And the other way around. Right. So I really liked the idea of having someone who's not 25 anymore who makes his first movie as a director, being an established writer and a great guy. A really great guy, sweet, wonderful, super smart. So I just asked, and I said, well, would you like to do that? And he said yes. And it was great, you know, and it's been great ever since.
Now, did that help you? Did his attachment, how did that further evolve the project to a place where you could get, where you're in pre-production now? And
definitely got other people.
Yeah, no, definitely. It gives you some kind of
legitimacy.
Right. Exactly. And it gives you yourself that kind of feeling that if someone like him likes the idea, wants to work with us and all that, that means there's got to be something to it.
Yeah, it gives
you
a boost.
To me, that's important. Some people don't need that, but I kind of do. I always try and figure out if what I'm doing or trying to do makes actual sense. Because it's my vision, and sometimes it's not objective. So that was great to begin with. And then, of course, people look at the whole project a little differently.
Yeah, it becomes more real, you know, in other people's eyes. We were always very genuine about it. But then something like that happens, and other people kind of start, what's going on over here?
It's just the nature of the trade, you know.
Which makes sense.
I wouldn't call it name dropping, but yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, if they could generate interest in that fashion, then there must be something to it, you know? So.
And you were happy with the influences on the story and on the script, like how did you view like the collaboration with these people coming in?
It's wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. That's another very important thing, you know, especially when you don't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But even if you do, I would say, you want to create a team of people who are nice people, know what they're doing, and nice. Really hard to find.
Yeah, and they're doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
You know, that's
right.
the big
and
thing.
Also,
not another notch on the belt, or
Right.
you know, one of those things like, yeah, we'll just knock out another film, and who gives a shit? It's like they want to do it.
Right.
You know?
So the passion behind this project.
Well,
Right.
the passion and being a genuinely nice person. Mm-hmm. And I can't stress that enough. I know it doesn't sound like a business kind of thing, but it is.
Yeah.
It comes into play. It can save you time. It can definitely save you money. And it's going to make, and it's going to make the whole process much, much smoother.
Yeah.
And that's why part of the reason why I like Jeff so much as a writer. I mean, he's not the kind of guy who, if the producer says, well, you know, I don't know about this character, can we kind of rethink that, or this line, or that part of the dialogue, he'll be like, oh no, because that's my vision, that's my work, and this and that. A lot of writers are like that. They won't change a thing just cause, you know, it came out of me, it's got to be good.
Mm-hmm. Right, no, it's true. But it's funny because when you do that, there might be that moment where it's like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with this alteration, but then you start hearing other people out and the opinions, and it starts it's like, it makes it better, and you didn't think it was possible, but you have to cross that bridge to get to that possibility, you know what I mean? So once you start listening to other people and allowing them to come in, you start realizing maybe I'm not 100% right 100% of the time, you know what I mean?
And also,
the ego drops off, and you start realizing different things.
And also, there is no right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
There isn't,
yeah,
because there are 1,000 different ways to do things.
Yeah.
You know, there's more than one way to skin
Right.
a cat, and they're all good. Sure. So it's just a matter, and we're lucky to have a really great producer as well.
Yeah.
Who will never say, you know what, I hate that, change it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, she'll sit down with you, and she has her vision, and that should count. And she will just try and explain it to you and say, well, you know, here's how I see it. How can we get there?
Right. And she's really excited. That's like a great quality of her. She's very excited just about film in general. You know what I mean? And that's really advantageous to have such an excited producer who, like, I had a conversation with her a couple weeks ago. And for like a solid hour before we even discussed the film, we just talked about filmmakers and cinematographers and different styles that could perhaps shape or influence the story we're trying to tell. But we weren't even trying to discuss that. But having that conversation is exciting and inspirational, and it always, since we're making the movie, it always goes hand in hand with the actual film, you know. But she's just excited about film in general, so it helps.
So let me switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you. So there's no crowdfunding component to
not
getting
so
your film.
far. Not so far.
Do you plan on doing that at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't know. At some point we might.
You might. Okay.
It's not that we don't need it, but in our specific situation, maybe grants should work better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There are grants you can apply for if your movie has some kind of social message to it. When it comes to that part of it, the business part, that's another thing you really have to figure out. And if you do have a budget, like, kind of have to. Part of that should go into hiring someone that will figure that out for you. Mm-hmm. You may have to spend, I don't know, 20 grand, whatever. I have no idea on that, but it'll save you, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think, instead of just going out there and trying to, because I don't know, it just doesn't look good for me to make a movie and then what do we do with it? For our movie, I think the festivals would be a good way to go in general. And then you do want to have some kind of distribution. You could go many different directions, but at least you have to know that your product will go somewhere.
You guys want to say any last things about this project specifically, and what would you say to, somebody who's sitting in his room, they got an idea?
Test it first. Yeah. Talk to people you respect. You can even reach out to whomever you think would be useful to you when it comes to feedback. Even people who you would think you shouldn't be reaching out to. A nice email, a nice letter, whatever. You just ask, can you read I wouldn't send out the script for 2 reasons. 1, because you never know. And 2, because I wouldn't read it.
Just send it out.
It takes too much time.
Yeah.
To read it, and it's like a task. You get this thing, and you go like, fuck. Oh my God, and you just don't do it. A short synopsis, something like that.
Give it treatment.
A treatment at most, and hear what they say.
But from a writing standpoint, someone sitting in a room with just an idea, just write the thing. And then write the treatment after so you can send it out. Be prepared to do what you got to do to send it out. But don't get in your own way. Just write the thing. Who gives a shit if it doesn't get made? Just write it, because now you have something. And we talk about luck. You can't get lucky without having the proper material. So it's like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to read my script. Well, someone's not going to definitely read your script if you never write it. So just write the thing.
Yeah, but one more thing that I would like to add to that. You want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. You know what I mean? Writing is great, but you have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And to be a good writer, you have to read a lot. You know what I mean? So it's not just like watching movies and thinking you're talented. That doesn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to read a lot. You have to know as much as you can. You have to be that kind of person that people want to talk to. Because we always take for granted that people in Hollywood are a bunch of idiots, and it might be almost true. But you will always find that exception that will sit down with you and will give you 5 minutes of their time. And if you sound like an idiot, or just like someone who doesn't really know what he's doing, you just wasted your chance. So you want to have a solid background. You want to be an intelligent, well-spoken person that people want to talk to. That's what I think.
Yeah. And to get to that point, you got to keep failing. Just keep failing.
Yeah.
Fail and fail and fail and fail, because each failure brings you closer to your success. So just keep failing. Just keep getting rejected. Just keep fucking churning shit out after shit out. And then all of a sudden, things start clicking from reading a lot.
If they're supposed to.
If they're supposed to, they'll start clicking. Which I'm convinced will happen if you just don't stop and you care about it. If you're genuine about it and you have it in you, you just keep failing until you succeed.
And get better.
Get better.
No, get better and better and better, because that's all you can do. You can't control what everybody else is doing, but you can control what you're doing. You know what I mean? So if you want to be here, you have to know that right now you're down here. You have to struggle. Your own struggle. It's not being better than anybody else. It's being better today than I was yesterday, and tomorrow and the day after that. So, perfection is not of this world, but you can aspire to it.
Right on.
It takes a lot of collaboration and legwork to take an idea and nurture it to the point where you get lucky enough to get it into production, even when you have an idea like In the Ring that has a pretty easily identifiable audience. So when you first have that idea, as you're writing the script, or even before you start writing it, think about who's going to want to see your film. A big trend I notice right now is people who want to make something in the horror genre because of the built-in audience. And that's a good place to start for sure, but even within that genre, there are nuances. For instance, is your film a slasher film, or is it a found footage ghost story, or any other number of subgenres? Whatever niche it fits into, you should really drill down and find out how you can connect with that audience. I want to thank you for listening to the Indie Film NYC podcast. We will have a new interview with a filmmaker every Wednesday, so if this interests you and you like hearing how other filmmakers are merging the art and business of independent filmmaking, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you have time, like, rate, and leave us a review too, because it will help get the word out and make it easier for people to find us. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the show notes for this episode, indiefilmnyc.com/episode 001, or email me at john@indiefilmnyc.com. That's JOHN@INDIEFILMNYC.com. We'll see you next time.